Stephen, are you ready for your first question?
Just a moment.
Take your time.
Okay, yes.
In the past, the COCO's Cultural Auxiliary was divided into two boards, one for cultural education, the other to specifically focus on FACN. This year, the boards were combined to create a TAO board. There are over 35 positions, and people criticized the large number of people within the board. In what ways was the change to a TAO board beneficial? In what ways would you delegate power differently to make the team more compact yet self-sufficient?
Could you repeat the last part of that question, please?
In what ways would you delegate power differently to make the team more compact yet self-sufficient?
Thank you for that question. I believe that with a TAO board, especially with very little precedence, it is kind of hard to dictate how you want to delegate these roles, which is why I do believe that there were so many roles to try and cover as many grounds as possible. However, after having this first year, we were able to realize that many of the positions were ultimately unnecessary. In the case of a TAO board, I had noticed that communication was one of the big issues. When you do have a lot of those people, when you do have 35 people among other dance heads as well, among people in live band, communicating and having those open lines of communication is hard when it's being extended through multiple different people. I believe that when managing an auxiliary board such as a TAO board and delegating power, I want to try and keep it as concise as possible. Trying to limit the amount of people per role, trying to limit the amount of people that I would need to go through in order to communicate to the final result, to ensure that a final product is something of good quality and something that everyone is knowledgeable of. And I do believe that we could do that through also targeting TAO board meetings as well, not keeping them closed off, keeping them open to back-end participants as well as dance heads. Because I had noticed that the only reason that why I knew as a dance head various things regarding back-end was because I was on the TAO board. However, I had to communicate those things to a TAO board and dance heads as well. Things that did not necessarily need to have a middleman in the first place. So having those TAO board meetings open to dance heads, encouraging them to come, encouraging back-end participants to come, will ensure that communication and delegating all of these roles is going to keep things as efficient as possible.
Are you ready for your next question?
Yes.
The position entails so much more than just FACN. How will you ensure that culture is being celebrated year-round?
For that question. I think that the easiest way to kind of celebrate culture and educate all the members would just be through reports, obviously. That is the obvious task. Reports can have interactive sections, such as they did this year with the Filipino Tattoo Workshop, which was interactive in keeping the members entertained and knowledgeable of the culture outside of just performance and back-end. Educating the members on this history through lessons while also making sure they're entertained helps the members retain the knowledge as well and truly understand the culture, and can ultimately help them carry the history and culture through them. I also want to concentrate and target Filipino Heritage Month as well as Philippine Independence Day throughout June. I would want to concentrate Filipino Heritage Month events to be during and after GDM, so that it doesn't really conflict with the FG schedule, especially as October is a busy month with socials and with FG practice schedules. And not only that, once FG is over, while we're still in the month of October and the month of Philippine History Month, I want to start as many back-end cultural dance workshops and different things to educate the members and get them active in participating and also maintain member retention while also educating them on the culture throughout the entire year. I noticed that after FG, there was a kind of dead period where members lost their interest in the organization or lost their motivation to go to GDMs and participate in different things. But keeping the members entertained and having those cultural dance workshops, they don't necessarily need to be back-end and performance related. They can be socials. I can collaborate with other auxiliary boards, with other pillars to turn these events into something that are fun as well, while also educating members on the culture year-round. And also retroactively and proactively getting a head start for back-end preparation in that regard. Sorry, could you repeat the question one more time?
This position entails so much more than FACN. How will you ensure that culture is being celebrated year-round?
Lastly, I would want to touch on, again, what I had previously mentioned of collaborating with the other pillars of Samahan, those being social, political, educational, and community, all enveloped by culture. I would like to turn these workshop events and have different things turn into social events, as I previously mentioned. Have, again, social events where it's a dance workshop in order to meet a potential big for Kasama program, not just Urban Bubble or different fundraisers as well. And also lastly, collaborate with political and education, making sure I'm getting proper information on general reports as well as collaborating with PR to get things posted on the Instagram and doing things such as like Filipino Fridays, making things fun and kind of look a little bit more palatable to the general audience. Just generally educating the members. Even if they click through it randomly on their story, they might click that. And if it educates one person, then that's one person who did not know the history previously. And that's as much impact as I want to do year-round as well. And then lastly, collaborating with a pillar such as community, trying to find small businesses to support for fundraisers and finding community opportunities to celebrate Filipino culture in the local San Diego community. Not only promoting Filipino culture, but also San Diego culture as a local school as well.
Are you ready for your last question?
Yes.
Creating an FAC on production is the main reason why many Cocos run for this position. What do you hope to explore in your story?
Thank you for that question. To be quite honest, I don't know. I could say that I have done a lot of preparation work in preparation for these questions. However, when I did come to the final question of what kind of stories I would want to explore for FACN, I ultimately drew a blank. But I do believe that's the benefit of having a cooperative position for this role. Having another mind to bounce ideas off of and brainstorm these ideas off of, and also delegating the TAL board, delegating those script writers to help you come up with these ideas would ultimately help produce a story that is of good quality. I also generally, if I were to have some sort of idea, I would want to explore more culture as well throughout the story. I have noticed that in the previous years that the stories obviously had more pertained to love, and don't get me wrong, everyone loves a good love story, but at the same time it had lacked the cultural aspect. And yes, obviously, there's the cultural dances, there's the cultural song, we're speaking Tagalog, singing Tagalog, but at the end of the day, we're doing it for the culture, and I think that if any aspect that we can, adding as much culture as possible, helping a character realize their culture throughout the story, and maybe finding love along the way, because everyone loves it, is what I would want to explore in FACN.